Yesterday, the design for the new iPhone 14. That's right, next year's iPhone got released and it will be thicker, and I'm going to tell you why. I'm Archive Dave and I simplify Apple so that everything just works for you, and if you want the latest Apple news, leaks and rumours every weekday at 12 UTC, like the video, subscribe to the channel and ring that bell. Now, I knew something big was coming from Jon Prosser and he didn't disappoint. Working with Ian Zelbo, the Front Page Tech team showed the iPhone 14, the 2022 iPhone, which has a way more substantial redesign than we were expecting, and here it is. Face ID is set to sit under the display panel, with just the camera itself in a cutout to take really accurate images. Basically a hole punch design that we've seen on various other phone designs in the past, but they didn't have to accommodate true depth sensors and more to squeeze in there as well. So it looks like next year, after a smaller notch this year, we're going to go to basically no notch, just a hole punch camera, and everything apart from the camera itself sitting under the display. So the dot projectors, the depth sensors, all projecting through the display itself without interrupting your view. Of course, the big story here though is the physical redesign, which is very reminiscent of the iPhone 4, but using titanium for the antenna bands instead, with a glass sandwich flush to the edges. Gone are the camera bumps as the body is thickened to meet where they would have been, and that could well allow for more battery life, but to me it sounds a lot more like this will be used to allow a much bigger sensor, because it looks like they're going to go for a periscope camera. We've had rumours for quite some time for a periscope camera coming to the iPhone, and that means basically that all of the lenses are stacked vertically within the phone and then bounced outwards towards you. That means you can have a much longer stack of lenses, which means you can get much better zoom optically. The problem for that though is that if you've got a very thin chassis, it means that the sensor at the end of that stack is going to be pretty small, but making the entire body thicker allows you to put in a much bigger battery, much bigger sensor for that camera, and a lot more. Now, I don't want to dwell for too long on this other than to say a massive well done to Jon and the team for getting this iPhone 14 trending a week before the iPhone 13 comes out, and massively confusing people who thought that Apple was just skipping the 13 name due to it being unlucky. The amount of work that must have gone into this is absolutely astonishing, so do please go and support by watching Jon's original video. I think I made him laugh as well because he did retweet the gift that I made him. Here it comes.
Some men aren't looking for anything logical, like money. They can't be bought, bullied, reasoned, or negotiated with. Some men just want to watch the world burn.
And there's very little else going on today. There's a couple of little tidbits of news, but I think we're going to skip straight to iCave Answers. First of all, Euritech asks, iCave Answers, your most excited Apple product for the September event apart from iPhone 13? Now, I'll be honest, I've not been massively excited for the iPhone 13. I think the biggest thing for me is that portrait mode video that they're bringing, so you'll be able to get that artificial computer bokeh in the background of your videos. But for me, it's always been about the Macs. So it's the Mac Mini M1X, assuming that actually comes. As I say yesterday, I'm not a huge guy for laptops. I will be interested maybe in the MacBook Air next year, but Mac Mini M1X is the big one that I'm hoping for. Marcin Kowalczyk asks, iCave Answers, honestly, ignoring the camera systems and 120Hz, is there that much difference between the Pro and normal iPhone 13s? Just trying to understand the hype. So no, if you do ignore the features in a Pro, it's very similar to an iPhone 13. But here are the big differences based on what we had last year. Obviously, the build quality when you're getting a stainless steel chassis instead of an aluminium chassis does make quite a big difference. It makes the phone more weighty, but it's also a lot more durable. My iPhone 12 Pro Max still looks basically brand new. There's two little areas right on the bottom of the phone where the coating on the stainless steel has chipped just on the edge, but you can't notice it unless you're looking for it. Compare that to aluminium, where you will always get a little bit of anodizing rub around the edges, so they will get lighter around any protruding edges. The other big differences in the chip itself, with the A14 chip, there were 6 gigs of RAM on the Pro models and 4 gigs on the regular model, which will make a big difference in terms of keeping apps open. I don't see apps reloading very quickly on my iPhone, certainly a lot less than I do on the iPad Air, which uses the A14, but with the lower RAM level. I would also say that the camera differences do make a big difference. The ProMotion, to me, is not a massive change, but I know a lot of people are really waiting for that. You do also get the higher base storage. You also get, you know, a handful of other bits like software features where you will get the fact that you can do ProRAW photography instead of just regular photography. You get double the frame rate in HDR video, 60 frames per second instead of 30. I would assume that the bokeh portrait mode video will only come to the Pro models because it's probably going to need the LiDAR to build that depth map in order to do that properly. So those would be the big differences. I think that's probably the case. Barris asks, what do you suggest for a computer engineer student? Should I buy Air M1 or wait for the Air M2? And how much do you think Air M2 will cost? So right now, I would probably just hold on at least until after the event in a couple of weeks, just to see if there are any MacBooks released, because you might just find some difference there. That being said, if you need something to work on now and you can't wait until the spring next year, and a MacBook Air with M1 is going to be absolutely capable for what you need. There's plenty of power built into these things. You're not going to be lacking in that side of things. In terms of performance, you're probably going to be around about 20% performance boost by going for the M2 instead of the M1. But if you can find a MacBook Air M1 for a good price, so somewhere around $800, which quite often does happen, then I don't think you're going to be disappointed at all, and I don't think you would lose anything if you were to buy one now and then resell it. You might lose $50 to $100 on that, but you'll have had a laptop for that amount of time for that $50 or $100. So I think that would be probably a good choice would be to grab an M1 Air right now. Just make use of any discounts you can, or buy a refurb from the Apple Store, or something along those lines. Amazon's always got deals on for about $850. If you've got any sort of coupons or discounts that you can find, go for your life. But yeah, I think the Air M1 is a great buy at the minute. The M2, I have a feeling it might go up a little bit because they're talking about it having those mini LED displays and possibly a redesign. So it could go up to $1099. But I'm not 100% sure. But then if they do that, I think they might keep the M1 MacBook Air model around, just with a small price drop. So fingers crossed that all makes sense for you. Thank you so much for watching. And that's the end of what we've got for you today. Leave me any questions for iCave Answers down in the comment section. I'd love to answer them for you. Thanks so much for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.